It's time for real questions at the local Climate Solutions for Africa conference in Cape Town, South Africa. With me is Mayor Muchadeyi Masunda, the mayor of Harare, Zimbabwe. Welcome.
Thank you.
When we would imagine that a 10 years old boy or girl would stand in front of us and would ask the simple question, what would my life look like in 40 years from now, when I'm 50, in the year 2050, what would you ask? What would you answer?
My immediate reaction would be you could have a dwindling source of potable water, largely because of the siltation that has taken place in and around our main sources of water in Harare. And therefore, I would have to do something pretty fast now to prevent or avert a looming disaster. And the siltation has occurred largely because of some serious environmental degradation. And the environmental degradation has happened on two fronts. One, the indiscriminate cutting of trees and the indiscriminate fell fires. And so we jokingly talk about the ordinary folk using two weapons of mass destruction in the form of an axe chopping down the trees and a box of matches creating fell fires, which then lead to the kind of problems that I referred to earlier.
You are addressing degradation of our natural ecosystems, and climate change is, of course, one of the major threats to the health of the ecosystems and thus to the health of humans. And when we consider where we have to go, we have to go on a low-carbon development path for all our communities and cities. We have to adapt cities and make them resilient to climate change and disasters. And I think we have to adjust the consumption levels worldwide to sustainable levels. Do you think you and your work have made a difference?
We have tried. In the last 2 and 3/4 of years that I've been in office since the 1st of July 2008. But unfortunately, we've had to channel most of our resources to a number of pressing priorities, like the provision of potable water to just over 4 million people. But simultaneous with all the things that we've been doing, we've endeavored to heighten the level of awareness, on all these environmental issues, so that the very sources of water don't end up, being destroyed, as it were. But the other matter that I have to mention has to do with the preservation of wetlands, because with the unsustainably high level of unemployment in Harare and therefore Zimbabwe, we've seen a number of people embarking on urban agriculture in an endeavor to keep body and soul together. And we've seen an unacceptable and unsustainable situation of some of that urban agriculture being carried out near wetlands, and that will inevitably have an adverse impact on the sources of potable water for the very same community. But we've done as much as we can, and we will continue getting the message across about the importance of taking heed of all those issues to do with the environment, without necessarily having to resort to brutal tactics like enforcing the environmental laws rigidly. We want to use the gentle art of persuasion as opposed to just rigid enforcement of the law.
So you are talking about the way of doing things. You are the mayor of Zimbabwe's capital city. You have been businessman for a long time. This might give you a particular perspective to what you are doing right now. And may I ask you, when you do your work as a mayor, do you feel to be more a politician or lead politician of a local government, or more the chief executive of a city?
It's a curious mixture of both, but I try and confine my role to that equivalent to a non-executive chairman of a big corporation, with my lieutenants being the town clerk, chief executive, and other departmental heads like the director of water and sanitation, director of engineering services, urban planning services, and so forth. And my job then becomes a facilitative one, to get them to focus on these priority goals, revolving around the much vaunted 8 MDGs, because we try as much as possible not just to do things in a vacuum. We have to make sure that we religiously follow the 8 MDGs in particular, reduction of poverty, reduction, if not elimination, of infant mortality, reduction, if not elimination, of maternal mortality, empowering women, observing climate change issues, and more importantly, in my view, working with others to attain these goals, because we are not an island. We cannot operate in isolation of what is happening around us. So to that end, we've done very well. For instance, we've resuscitated a twinning arrangement with the city of Munich in the Federal Republic of Germany, and they've assisted us a lot on with regard to the delivery of medical services. They gave us a generous grant of 600,000 euros, which we used to procure medicines and other medical requirements to sustain 2 hospitals that we run, 12 polyclinics which double up as maternity centers, and 32 primary healthcare centers. And so to that end, I think we've done well. And Munich in December, for instance, 2010, they sent 2 of their sanitation and water engineers to help us manage our water resources and sewage reticulation better. So we're very grateful for this symbiotic relationship that we've developed with Munich in particular.
Yeah. That's a very encouraging example of city-to-city cooperation, north-south, but there are also cooperations south-south and north-north, and I think city networking becomes increasingly important, as cities can no longer just rely on national government to provide what they need. They need to get help, and they need to get support and exchange best practices and exchange ideas, solutions, approaches at the city-to-city level. When we talk for a moment about the global climate, which is shared by everybody, it's not being owned by one particular country, nor is it possibly owned by just all the countries together. It's maybe just global. Who should, in the world of institutions, and you can look at it from a business perspective or from a city's perspective, what's your opinion? Which institution should be the custodian of the global climate?
That's a very good question, Conrad. First and foremost, I think I need to emphasize the point that you make, that global climate is everyone's business. But the first port of call, in my view, should be the multinational corporations, because a number of these multinational corporations, especially those that are involved in the extractive industry, be it mining or exploration of fuel, gas, and that sort of thing, they have generated revenues which in a number of instances are much larger than those generated by states. So I would like to see a closer cooperation between cities and those corporates, in terms of addressing the very important and pressing climatic issues, because most central governments just don't have the wherewithal to effectively address the problems associated with climate change. Whereas we could encourage a number of these multinational corporations as part of their broader corporate social responsibilities to get involved. And luckily, a number of them are well disposed towards climatic change solutions, notably Anglo-American PLC, Lafarge, and BP, and Shell. And I think they appreciate more than maybe other corporates, the need to repair the damage that has been caused to the environment, largely by their operations, and they're anxious to plow back, into the community some of the monies that they've generated over the years. And an example that comes to mind in that regard is the Niger Delta. It's very important for all those oil companies to do something in conjunction with the local authorities, to clean up the environment in the Niger Delta. Because right now, the ordinary folk there that have always relied on fishing, their primary source of protein, threatened.
The United Nations climate negotiations will continue after Copenhagen and Cancun later this year in Durban, South Africa, the so-called COP17. What do you, from the perspective of a city leader, expect in terms of an outcome?
Conrad, I must confess that my main fear with all these international fora that are put together to deal with these very, very important issues, they end up as mere talk shops. And there has to be a greater and more compelling evidence of the political will on the part of the national leaders, on matters to do with climate change. and until such time that we see a paradigm shift on the part of the national leaders, I'm afraid it's going to take, that much longer for all these issues to be addressed. So I'd like to see a situation where the United Nations works more closely with the mayors, because the mayors are the core face of all these things. And so there should be a tripartite arrangement, in my view, involving the United Nations stroke UCLD on one hand, the corporates on the other, and the mayors. Because those are the three institutions, if you like, that can actually work better and produce tangible results.
Thank you, Muchadeyi Masunda, Mayor of Harare, Zimbabwe. It was time for real questions at the Local Climate Solutions for Africa conference in Cape Town, South Africa.